Start working with your child to figure out, we have all these books on ADHD and everybody's an expert. And you talked about social media, but 80% of the stuff on social media is wrong. You have to look at your child as your child. And what is the beauty in your child in the midst of your stress? Like, this person is driving me nuts. But some of the most creative people on this planet, some of the Fortune 500 companies, most of those are run by people with ADHD. We have strengths. We just don't always fit in the world the way that we should.
Hi, it's Kate from ADHDkidscanthrive.com. Before we start, I want to address the fact that I know how overwhelming it can feel to parent a child with ADHD. The questions, the challenges, the desires to give your child the best possible chance to thrive is a lot to carry for parents. That's why I want to share my journey with you through my book, How We Roll, A Parent's Journey on Raising a Child with ADHD. I've had the privilege of helping many parents like you navigate the journey of raising a child with ADHD. We've worked together to create brighter paths. All my experiences, practical tips, heartfelt insights are narrowed down into this book. To help you get started, I've made the first 3 chapters of the book available to you for free. You can check out through the link in the show notes below. Hi, it's Kate Brownfield from ADHDkidscanthrive.com. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all your support. I really do appreciate it. I am your host of the ADHD Kids Can Thrive podcast. I am also an ADHD parent coach, author, and parent. If you'd like to stay in touch and see the different services I offer, please go to ADHDkidscanthrive.com. Okay, today I'm very honored to be joined by Dr. Christie Rogers-Lark. She is founder and clinical director of Outside of the Box Therapy in South Carolina. She was personally diagnosed with ADHD in college and self-identifying as the Porcupine in her new children's book called The ADHD Porcupine and the Bunny. She hopes that her book allows people to see the capability of those who tend to have more oppositional traits. After all, resistance is just a form of resilience, and when a person recognizes what makes a person fly, they can see the unique talents that kind of person can bring to the table. It's a beautiful storyline. And we get into what emotional regulation is and her book storyline a little bit more. And I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Thanks for being here, and let's get started. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Rogers-Lark. I'm looking forward to speaking to you today. You are the author of a book called The ADHD Porcupine and the Bunny, and it's based on a true story, children's book. So I'm just really curious to just start from the beginning of just kind of your own personal journey.
Okay.
Growing up with ADHD, and you were oppositional as a child?
And probably as an adult, yes.
Well, I just think it's fascinating. We could just share like your story, because you are admitting that you grew up with ADHD and being oppositional, but now you're known as Dr. C, and you have your doctorate, and you're an educator, and you're supporting other children who have similar struggles, right? So I'm just like, tell us the arc of all of this, because it's just such an incredible story.
So I'm an educator. I'm also a therapist. So I work with kids on this end too. When I grew up, ADHD was not something that was spoken about. So I was given the strong-willed child. You know, your parents would say, don't check out the light, you'll get hurt from a light socket. And I'd be like, let me try.
Oh, great.
And so that oppositional, that need to test boundaries and everything has been pervasive throughout my whole life. Very strong will, very strong drive to kind of do stuff. And actually the book came from a period of self-reflection. I have a friend who is a fantastic trainer and teacher by the name of Jackie Flynn. And Jackie could motivate me in ways that nobody else could. And I wanted to know why. What was the special thing that she has? Now, what we do know for children who have oppositional behaviors is very common in the neurodiverse community In fact, it's almost found exclusively in the neurodiverse community. And I wanted to figure out how could somebody get through that opposition. And I realized that a lot of it isn't so much of opposition as it is comfort, my nervous system providing me with comfort and safety from people around me that allows you to kind of bring those quills down. So for the last 10 years, I've often referred to myself as the ADHD porcupine. And I have a very strong personality. So it takes, sometimes I come on a little bit too strong, and I realize that sometimes I can have those defensive quills out. Like, I'm expecting for you to be critical. I'm expecting this. And so I've got my quills at the ready. And so I've known that about me for years. And Jackie was able to kind of get beyond the quills. And she does it with a lot of sunny encouragement, focusing on my strengths, focusing on my positives. And even when she's coming to give me a criticism, she does it in such a way that I don't feel that sense of attack. That a lot of people who are oppositional will report feelings of being attacked or minimized or diminished in some way.
Right. Okay. So how old were you when you kind of came into this self-awareness?
So I was actually formally diagnosed as an undergrad from one of my teachers who sent me over to sort of to a formal diagnosis. And I finally understood what it meant to be ADHD. Now, to put that in perspective, they weren't doing studies on females with ADHDs until the mid-90s. So this was about that time period where I'm getting diagnosed.
Okay. When women were starting to be recognized as possibly having ADHD. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we present differently, which is right, the hallmark. So I really dived into wanting to learn why I did the things I did. So that's how I went. I fell into counseling. I didn't plan to go to be a therapist in my life. I actually planned to be a teacher of the deaf. And my wisdom of my undergrad program, they put me in a classroom really quick. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
But clearly you're a very compassionate soul and sensitive, right? Is that kind of what ADHD and neurodiverse is having a sensitive nervous system, right? And kids can respond by being prickly.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And so your work. Okay. So let's talk about, just tell us about the book. It is available on Amazon and it's called The ADHD Porcupine and the Bunny. And there it is. It's a cute book with just such an amazing message. So just tell our listeners, just share a little bit about what the storyline is about.
So we know that when people's nervous systems are activated, they will come back and they will respond, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Well, when you have a nervous system that comes out as a fight response, almost an oppositional response, we already know that people who have ADHD get 200,000 more negative messages about behavior. Well, now you've got somebody who knows they're being criticized, who knows that people don't like them or people don't want them around or anything else. So their porcupine starts to come into existence because it starts to become, well, if you don't like me, I'm going to give you something not to like. And so you end up getting all of those negative behavior. And I really want people to understand that opposition, that when people are oppositional, it's not to drive you crazy. It's they're communicating to you in the only way that they know how. And that's through behavioral. They may not have the words to tell you that they're upset. They may not even know what it is that's making them upset, but they draw that barrier against the world because I can't tolerate whatever's going around for whatever reason.
Yeah. Okay. And so for this podcast, it's for parents listening. If they have a very oppositional child who's strong-willed and pushing the buttons in response to whatever it may be, right? School, doing chores, whatever. How do you counsel parents to respond? What are some other options to respond to that prickliness, if you will?
So I think it's important to look at how they're categorizing that child. If that child is the difficult child, if that child is, the non-compliant one, all these negative terms that we give, and how are we disciplining a child? Are we disciplining it purely punitively, which I'm going to take things away. I'm going to take things away. I'm going to take things away. You can only take things away so much, then you have nothing left to take away. It's not a good pattern of parenting with a child that's oppositional. Instead, you sort of got to get them on your team to behave and understand that you can have the best system in place and some days are still going to be difficult. because they're in that difficult space. They're not trying to be difficult to you. It's their nervous system that's communicating with you. If they're saying, I don't want to do chores, I'm not saying to give up doing chores, but structure it in such a way, like, if I do this chore, what's the benefit for me? Well, the benefit for me may be I have access to things that I wouldn't otherwise. Maybe I have access to my games. Maybe I have access to something that I like. I tell parents here, and I'll say, good behavior gets you good things and bad behavior gets us nothing. And that's true even in life.
Right.
That we have to understand. And being oppositional, you also have to remember that children don't read social cues well. So you have to be specific in teaching those socials. They don't have somatic language. They don't read social cues well. There's so many things that, a neurotypical child, when you start comparing them, they're different, and you have to allow for those different.
Yeah. Okay. So now I want to know more about the bunny. So how was the bunny with
So
the porcupine that kind of changed the whole dynamic, right?
Yeah. So the bunny came in, and she is very much a goodness and light, positivity the whole way. And she would notice and she would recognize the things that she felt that I did well at. Like, for example, she's the one that one day we were having a conversation and she found out I wrote. And so I shared with her some of the writing, and she's like, wow, I didn't know you knew how to do that. And so she started to come alongside and find things that I did well at. And that's what she would maximize in me to kind of be productive. Well, how can we use this trait to help you where you need to go? So she was very positive. She didn't take anything I said personally, or, I always tell people I have a God-given gift to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. And she never, ever got offended by anything. She just kind of rolled with everything that I had. And because of that, she got me motivated to do tasks that I had been thinking about, for years. And finally, she got me organized to do that.
It's amazing. And that's good advice. I mean, there's so many wonderful ways, whether you're a parent or a caregiver or an educator, that just kind of your actions can make a big difference in somebody who is thinking and acting differently, right?
Right.
I mean, it just seems like such little easy things, right, that she did. These aren't like really developed skills that she had to acquire to help you find your way, right? It was just really kind of nurturing the best of you.
To see beyond the quills to the park.
Yeah.
We all
want kind of that simple.
Yeah, it is. It is, but it's also the hardest thing to just see people beyond behavior. We spend so much time. Think about, ADHD through the lifespan. How many times, might have difficulty in jobs and things because maybe you don't do the speak the way that it's supposed to do, or you don't talk a certain way. And so you get all this negative stuff on it. And so, yes, I still am the porcupine. At the end of the day, I'm still the porcupine. The difference is now I know how the porcupine functions better, so I can surround that in my life.
Yeah. And okay, so do you find you seek out people who are more accepting of you, see you for who you are versus a behavior that you've shown? Okay. Yeah.
Somebody who challenges me too. I don't want a bunch of yes people.
Yeah.
I want somebody who, even when they're giving that criticism and, hey, you need to do this, you can see that at the end of the day, they know who you are.
Yeah. They're doing it in a loving and kind way.
Right.
So how would you support parents who, though, but they have to get this done, right? Let's say homework, school is I feel like that's the urgency for between parents and kids. And when a child is becoming very prickly, how does the parent navigate that in that moment, in that period of time?
Okay. So if the child's having a hard time with homework, for example, is it the homework you're battling with? Is it the fact that they're having problems with their teacher? Is it a fact that they don't understand the information, but they don't want to tell you they don't understand the information because they don't want to be, perceived as, stupid or whatever? So they're acting out. And what happens when a child acts out like that, they're sort of taking their problem and they're making it external in a behavior. Very few children act out for the pure joy of acting out. They're acting out for a reason. And so I usually encourage parents to kind of monitor behavior and see how behavior is. And okay, they don't want to do homework. So the thing is, I need you to do homework. I'm going to give you some choices in how you do. So you need to complete your homework before you watch TV or before you play a game or whatever. I don't care if you sit down in one slot. I don't care if you get up every 15 minutes and walk around. Do whatever you need to, but this is the limit on where I'm willing to go.
Yeah. Okay.
And then be consistent, because if you're not consistent, porcupines will find the weakest links.
That is a fact. They're very smart.
Yeah.
They know how to navigate. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I think it's interesting too. Social media has really kind of raised awareness around neurodiversity, ADHD, and all of this stuff. It also is creating a little bit of confusion, especially when it comes to emotional dysregulation, oppositional defiance. And then now we got this word PDA that's kind of coming in, and parents are defining this themselves, right, with their child. What would be your wisdom and expertise around a child who is acting like I actually like the word porcupine better, but how would you suggest parents kind of navigate this? And it's really coming down to a child being very difficult. A parent is finding the child emotions very difficult to navigate. So what would be kind of your guidance around that for parents?
So we got to see where that emotional dysregulation is. Sometimes kids are very sensitive, so they can be very dramatic. Sometimes they're dysregulated in response to something they think or that they see. And so whether a child has PDA or they just want to be a little bit prickly that day, the fact is our job as a parent is to raise children that will one day have to go to work. So you may not want to do your homework, but if you go to school, I need you to pass. So I need you to do this stuff. But maybe I can give some flex on the fact that your room isn't so clean, because your room not being clean is actually my trigger, and I've got to work on my trigger. So how can we come to this? Like, I'll let you have a clean room, except you have to clean once a month. That's all I ask. Figure out what your points are so that you can tell them there's certain things I'm willing to be flexible on. Like, I have a ADHD child myself, and I used to tell him all the time, there's certain things I'm very flexible on and I'm willing to be flexible on. And then there's things that I'm not.
Right.
Because when you leave here, you're not going to go to a job and say, hey, I think I want to show up at 10, even though it started at 9. So
that's not going to serve you as an adult, right?
Right. My job as a parent is to teach you how you can get ready to go to that job at 9.
Yes, because you got to show up on time for work, but you don't necessarily have to have a spick and span bedroom.
Correct.
To be able to live a good life.
Right.
But those are the things that you have to determine as a family. That's great advice. Okay. And then you've talked a little bit about developing motivation and emotional regulation in the home and the school with their child. As we wrap up, what would be your words of wisdom for parents who are on this journey?
So motivation is a little bit hard, and there are components of ADHD that really can make that a struggle. But people will often work for things that are important to them, whatever that is. And so you have to figure out the thing that is important to them. But our job is also to teach people strategies. What works for you? I had to figure out as an adult the things that work out for me. And I'll give you a good example. People talk about fidgets were a big thing. And then now you don't see fidgets. But the reason why they fell out of favor, especially with school, is they got noisy and you were looking down at them and you were doing everything else. But you can get little fidgets that have no sound.
Yeah. What is that? Like material?
It's actually a monkey noodle.
Oh, okay.
You can buy a whole pack of them on Amazon really cheap. And so they can wrap it around the hand. The only rule that I give to kids when they have this is they can't hit anybody else with it.
Yeah. Okay. And it's quiet and it's stretchy and hot tip.
They can put it in their pocket. They can do all kinds of stuff. So start working with your child to figure out, we have all these books on ADHD and everybody's an expert. And you talked about social media, but 80% of the stuff on social media is wrong. So you have to look at your child as your child. And what is the beauty in your child in the midst of your stress? Like, this person is driving me nuts. But some of the most creative people on this planet, some of the Fortune 500 companies, most of those are run by people with ADHD. We have strengths. We just don't always fit in the world the way that we should.
Right. I agree. I really think that, we need neurodiversity to help evolve the world into the place that it really should be more like.
Yep.
It's good advice.
That's the point with the book is I want people just to see the person, not the oppositional. Like I said, I had that God-given gift. I want people to see beyond sometimes my inability to say the perfect thing. You know, you are valid, you are good, you are this. Even as a therapist, sometimes people come and say, well, you're supposed to do it this way. You're supposed to do it this way. And I could say, if I really stunk at it, I wouldn't have people coming back in, or I wouldn't have a waiting list. I'm not fitting into your world definition, and that's okay.
Right.
It's okay to be different.
It's okay to be different. Very empowering.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a great book to read to your children, but also the parents to read with their kids, right? Great, great message. Do you have
also good anywhere, businesses, anything that, hey, you may have this team member that's driving you nuts. There's a purpose for that. Let's look beyond that.
Right. Be patient, be kind, kind of look beyond and focus on their talents and the things that they bring to the table. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the priority. Okay. I love the message. It's great, Dr. C.
You are welcome.
Such a pleasure to talk to you. Yes. And I'll put the link to your book. It's only available on Amazon, or is it available?
It is only available on Amazon. We're trying to get it up on Barnes & Noble now and some of the other forums. Part of that is my fault because I have to readjust some stuff and give it back. And I just haven't. It's been crazy. So I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm really excited for you. It sounds like it's a well-needed book with a well-needed message. And just the illustrations alone give a great example of the approach. Right? Just that alone. If you can stick to that approach of the bunny and the porcupine, that'll take you a long way.
So when you're around a porcupine, don't take things personally and step back and know most porcupines start to know they're a porcupine really early, and it's okay.
Great message. Hey, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. Really appreciate it.
You too.
Yeah, great.